and welcome to the Charles River Conservancy Parkland Show. My name is Renata von Charner. I'm the founder and president of the Charles River Conservancy, and this show is always about the Charles River, the parklands, and the people who make things happen on those parklands. And one of them is Jay Livingstone. Jay Livingstone is our state rep of the 8th Suffolk district in the House, and he's running for the Senate for the 1st Suffolk and Middlesex district. So we'll be talking about your part of the district on the Charles River, which is on both the Boston side and the Cambridge side. So it's mostly towards the right of this map, and we are looking at his district. So here is his information where he can be reached, and here is the district in yellow. So it covers about equal amount of Cambridge as it does in Boston.
The land masses are about the same, yeah.
The land mass is about the same. So let's look at that district. A lot of Charles River frontage. It's really a big part of the urban river. So we will be talking a bit about swimming. We'll be talking about, you are not quite at the skate park, but you were there at the opening day. We'll be talking about the Esplanade, about Magazine Beach, and then about the Underpasses, which kind of start on the Boston side and then are a little bit further upriver. So let's start with some of the things that we see on this map that you've been working on. Tell us about the South Bank Bridge.
So a few years ago, on the north bank of the Charles River, between East Cambridge and Charlestown, there's a bridge called the North Bank Bridge that goes over the railroad tracks and creates a great pedestrian connection between Charlestown and Kendall Square. There have been proposals, and it was a big mitigation project, to also do the South Bank Bridge, which would be a similar bridge that would go over the railroad tracks on the Boston side of the river, right behind North Station.
And that's kind of where the old Spalding Rehab Hospital was.
Yes,
yeah. So also that something you've been working on is the Memorial Drive Historic Parkway Initiative. You might have seen the trees being wrapped. And that's going to be a great improvement for biking and pedestrians.
Yeah, DCR is creating a separated bike path and pedestrian path to better maintain the paths and make them safer. The paths will be expanded, and the parkland will be expanded in some places.
Yeah, and already the first part has already happened a few years ago. You might recall when parking spaces were removed and actually increase in parklands, which is very rare, and at the time the DCR did not get much credit for doing such a dramatic improvement, which is wonderful.
Yeah, I hope the final plans are a dramatic improvement. DCR could have done a little better with the public process. They had a great public process, I guess, in 2009, and hopefully as they proceed, they'll keep the public better informed. But I think we'll end up with twice as many trees as we had, and then it's been key to continue to advocate to make sure they're properly maintained and watered. Yeah,
I know we got quite a few emails from people saying, why are they cutting down all the trees? So Cassie Susie of Magazine Beach and I wrote a letter to DCR saying it's important to keep the public informed, that when trees are cut down, that people are informed and know that there will be more trees in the end, and that the newly planted trees are well taken care of, which is a big concern. So I'm glad you weighed in on that. Another part of an important part, because your district in a way crosses the Charles, yet it's very hard as a pedestrian or as a bicyclist to cross the river. I think it's the Craigie Bridge, but the Craigie Bridge is a very unattractive way to cross the river. So I hope we can work on ways to make it easier.
Yeah, I'm always trying to think of ways to improve bike and pedestrian connections in and around the Charles River Basin and connecting to the basin. There's legislation in the State House to improve intersections for bicycles and pedestrians, and that I'm advocating for. But then also as projects come up, like the historic pathways, to make sure that those connections are improved. And actually, as part of that project, several of the crossings from the non-Cambridge side of the river to the riverside will be improved for both bicycles and pedestrians.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump in and talk about swimming. Are you in this picture?
I am.
You are.
I think
All
I'm
right.
right in the middle.
You're right in the middle. And you have been swimming in the Charles since we had the first community swim in 2013.
Yeah, it's been great each year. It's an amazing, different perspective to be in the water looking out at the banks. The water has been fantastic each time, and it's amazing the water quality improvements because of all the work of MWRA that we're able to do this and be healthy afterwards.
Yeah, and also over 1,000 swimmers have since experienced that and be getting wonderful feedback. And that was one of the ideas behind those community swims, is to prove that there's an interest.
Yeah.
Because many people said, oh, nobody wants to swim. You know, people think you're crazy if you're going to swim. But in fact, people love swimming.
Yeah.
So that is really wonderful. Yes.
And I really have to commend the Charles River Conservancy working with DCR to organize these swims, because it's a great thing for the community. Like you said, everyone has enjoyed it, and it would not be happening but for your organization.
Well,
So
thank you.
I'm
And
happy to support you.
Thank you. And DCR has been very helpful. They help us put the buoy out. They help us with the lifeguards. There are a lot of lifeguards there.
Yeah.
Because it's quite challenging. It's a deep water site, so you need to be very watchful. And DCR trains the lifeguards and does a wonderful job. And people having fun. So here we were out on the docks with Secretary Matt Beaton, came and jumped in. I don't know if you were there the same day he was there.
I think I was there the next day.
You were there another day, and he gave a press conference, treading water. I think there were 7 cameras lined up on the dock, and he was just loved it. And then the 2 ladies to the right are from the Charles River Watershed Association, with whom we partner on many fronts, and particularly on swimming, because they are the experts on water quality. And it was a very joyous day on the river there. So let's look at some other projects you worked on here on the Esplanade.
So the Esplanade Association has really done a great job privately funding a lot of projects. 2 of them, one is the fixing of the hat shell lawn, which was a tremendous work. It improves the sound quality. The lawn was amazing to touch this summer, and
it was real lawn. It was really the oval really looked green, looked beautiful. Yes.
And even after the 4th of July, it would still look like a lawn. It held up to the stresses and strains of that event. And then one of the first big projects that the Esplanade Association did was the play space, and the split right at kind of the southern part of the
At the
lawn.
bistro, that's right, yes.
Which is enjoyed by kids every weekend, and is another great project. Further north, and those are the Esplanade Association. Further north were projects along the Longfellow Bridge that I've been involved in. One that's still underway, which was a mass iron air proposal, and as part of legislation I passed, MassDOT is going to move Starrow Drive so that it's under one arch of the Longfellow instead of 2, which will increase the parkland of the Esplanade by up to 4 acres.
Yeah, it's a great project. It's Tony Pangaro has been very instrumental in that, and the Conservancy wrote letters of support. And it will bring about 3 or 4 acres more parklands that can be added. This is really a wonderful addition.
And it's in a place where there isn't a lot of parkland.
It's the mass idea parking right now.
Yeah. So it's converting a surface parking lot into parkland and then making underground parking.
Yeah, and also in that area is the new spray pool that the Alphonse family has helped, and I think you were at the ribbon cutting. That was a joyous event.
Oh yeah. There was a small swimming pool
a wading pool. It was a wading pool. Yes.
And the spray deck I think has kids of a much greater age range are really enjoying it and did all summer.
Yeah, and also a wading pool. A wading pool is also something that even with a little water, a small child can drown. You're about to become a father. Your wife is due on Saturday, so you will be thinking about wading pools and safety. Even a little bit of water can make it possible for a child to drown, whereas with those spray pools, they are completely flush, and they're activated by children running over or by pressing a button, so it's easy to clean and nobody can drown. It's really a wonderful invention. So
and as a result, DCR doesn't need a lifeguard on the space either, and they have trouble each summer filling lifeguard positions. Please apply to DCR to be a lifeguard. The Red Cross at Kendall Square gives lifeguard lessons to teach people the skills they need, and DCR is the largest employer of lifeguards on the East Coast. Yeah. And so this will help alleviate some of that.
Yeah, I think some of the beaches and pools could not be opened or were opened much shorter because of a lack of lifeguards. Yeah. And you would think lifeguarding is a wonderful job for a young person to learn very great skills. So we hope that if we create a permanent swimming location on the Charles, and that's the goal of the Conservancy, that this is also a place where lifeguards can be trained. Yeah. Because many pools are too shallow to train lifeguards. You need to have a certain depth. It's not enough to have 4 feet of depth, as most pools have, to train lifeguards. So I think we're all on the same page here. All right, now let's move back to Cambridge. Let's move to Magazine Beach. And here we have an aerial view of Magazine Beach, which a lot of things are happening, and you've been very involved.
We actually skipped over one of my favorite things on the Charles, which is the new skate park.
Oh, the new skate park. Oh, well, you're kind to mention it. You were there. You've seen it when it opened. And after that, and it continues to be packed. It's a tremendous resource for the community, and it will be enjoyed, hopefully, by my child growing up. Absolutely, yeah. And we actually had CCTV was there at the opening. There were 2,000 people there at the opening, and then CCTV did a wonderful film. We also had the 2 rappers here on that program, the rappers who performed at the opening. Oh wow! So there are now, I think, 4 or 5 films already have been made. One has been made by the Lynch Foundation, and one has been made by Stantec. So there are a lot of movies out there, and the kids are there even on cold winter days, and they shoot films as others skate. So it's both a place for athletes and for filmmakers. So that's great. It's a lot of fun. So let's go back now to Magazine Beach.
Yeah. So Magazine Beach was brought to my attention when I first ran for office, and I really got to work on it right away. The first meeting that I had with a government official as a state representative was with the commissioner of DCR to talk about Magazine Beach. And we've made tremendous strides at Magazine Beach the last few years, but there's still a ways to go. And so some of the things that we did, first, there was a play set that was hurting kids because it was rusted and had broken parts, and we convinced DCR to remove that, and we're working on a replacement for it, but at least kids aren't getting hurt.
There's also discussion, I think, of adding a spray pool there,
Correct.
which would be a great addition to the swimming pool that is on the left-hand side of the picture.
Yeah, and that is going to go in as part of the master plan that's currently underway. But I think that's going to be another great resource, and especially that's a wading pool that's been closed for probably 15 years.
Yeah, and this building, the old bathhouse, built from stones from the old magazine, the Powder magazine, did receive funding from the city of Cambridge, CPA funding with a match from DCR.
Yeah, and then Senator Petroselli and I, in addition to that, got additional state funding in the budget, and all those pots of money together allowed allowed DCR to fix the roof. The roof was collapsing when I first was elected, and that was a top high priority for Senator Petroselli and I. And I'm pleased that the roof looks great. We thought we had enough money to also redo the windows. We didn't. So in this year's budget, we came back, and there's another earmark to repoint the building and fix the windows. So I think that's going to happen shortly.
So the work for that should be starting this spring.
Correct.
Yeah, and also what's happening is there's a plan going on, the landscape plan for the area surrounding the bathhouse.
Yeah, there was a master plan that was done about 10 to 15 years ago for the whole space. The area where the ball fields are now was redone, which added a lot of exercise equipment, and then funding dried up, and so they didn't do anything more for the rest of the space from the ball fields through the swimming pool. And so I'm pleased that because of our advocacy, DCR has gone back and rehired the same consultant that was there before, Crosby Schlesinger, and they're undergoing a new public process to see what the community wants now in that space. There's been a series of public meetings, and they hope to have the design done by the spring so that they can start construction next year.
Well, it's great for both the Cambridgeport as Neighborhood Association and for the Friends of Magazine Beach and Kathy Susie, who leads that effort, to have your
She's
support.
amazing.
She's amazing. Exactly, she gets things done. But it's very important. I think what's also crucial in this project, and it's a great example of that, is the state, and you represent the state, and the land is owned by DCR, but the city plays a key role and needs to play a key role. So to bring the municipality and the state together is so crucial, and I think this is a really good example where that can happen and can set a model for other parts along the river.
I agree, and what it's allowed is fixing up the powder house, which hasn't been available to the public for use for years, and now the DCR has a public process going on to put somebody in there. And some of the people that have expressed interest range from a food vendor to a nonprofit that wants to have it as a community art space. Yeah. And so it'd be great to have that space returned to the public and in use. Either one of those things would be great, and the community will really benefit from it.
Yeah, it's called the stewardship program. Curatorship program, sorry.
Yep.
And if you go to the website of Magazine Beach, you can Google that. You can read those proposals, and you're right, they all sound good.
Yep.
And we hope that will come to fruition. And since Cassie's involved, I know it will. You're involved, so that's wonderful.
Yeah. We'll keep pushing.
Now let's move to another something that you enjoy doing, and that is, I know you're a bicyclist,
Yep.
and it probably will take a while until your little boy will sit on the back seat there, but I hope you will be out there in the spring.
Yeah.
And the Conservancy has been working on making bicycling easier along the Charles, because there are parts along the parkways where there are no crossing lights, there are no crossing paths, and there are no underpasses. So we have been advocating the underpasses. Obviously the bicyclists will come from your part of Beacon Hill and Back Bay, but when they go up the river, they will come to the River Street Bridge, the Western Avenue Bridge, and the Anderson Bridge, and each time they have to fight the traffic. So you've a part, I think we have over 40 elected officials, and you played a key role in that, to advocate for underpasses.
Well, I was happy to support your efforts. I mean, you've been at this probably 15 years.
Well, it's a skate park, took 15 years, but the underpasses, I think we've been at it for 8 years now.
Okay.
So first we gathered all the advocates, you know, the walkers, the runners, the bicyclists, mothers groups, environmentalists. I think we have over 43 groups that support the underpasses. And then once we had all that support, we had to convince the governor and the Secretary of Transportation, and it was Rich Davey. I remember clearly when in July, it was in 14, he says, okay, let's start designing.
Yeah.
And he assigned a team of designers, a wonderful team under Paul Moyer, to take that project on. They are now at 25%.
Yep.
And so that has been very exciting. And I think here is a letter that lists all the elected officials as well as some of the advocates who are most active involved. Livable Streets, Walk Boston, the Institute for Human-Centered Design, Conservation Law Foundation, and of course all the elected officials are part of that. So we were able, with the help of the Bar Foundation, to do some renderings of how that could look like to have underpasses. Here is the Western Avenue Bridge, and these bridges were originally scheduled to be restored, but that has been postponed because of the I-90 effort. Yep. Which is also a very interesting, it's not in your district, but it's probably also somewhere on your radar.
Absolutely. I mean, it's across the river from Cambridgeport, and so a lot of the impacts, particularly noise traveling across the river, and so what barriers are going to be put in place, how open is the Mass Pike going to be to Cambridgeport, are things that are very important to constituents, and so I have been paying attention. Yeah. And I think right now MassDOT is doing a noise study to see exactly what is getting across the river and how they can mitigate it. They've come up with proposals to mitigate sound going into Brighton, and so they have proposed some sound walls, and so hopefully the research will show the same thing should be done to protect Cambridgeport. Yeah, because often sound travels across the water much easier than through a city. Yeah. So, and if you ask anyone that lives at the end of Magazine Street, they would agree with you that the sound is getting to them. Yeah. So here is the picture of the Anderson Bridge, which is now at approaching 25% design and is going out to permitting. Unfortunately, it will not be done as part of the current renovation of the bridge because it involves a whole different set of permitting, like the Army Corps of Engineers and Mass Historical Commission. But the design is advancing, and we have very involved advocates in all that effort. So if you are a bicyclist or a runner or a walker and have not been involved, I hope you will visit our website and sign up, and that will be the last image. But I want to thank you for all you do for the Charles River and the parklands. And here is a little bit more information about how people can contact you if they have a question for you. Yeah, I'm happy to help with the Charles. I grew up in the suburbs and had a yard that I always played with my neighbors and brothers and sister. And in the city, people don't have that. And so our yards are our parks, and we have a tremendous park. The Magazine Beach is the largest park in the city of Cambridge. The Esplanade, along the Boston side of the river is a tremendous series of small parks all connected. And anything that I can do to improve those spaces, I've really tried to work on. And especially when I have advocates like yourself at the Charles River Conservancy or the people at the Esplanade Association who will provide resources and expertise, we can get a lot of things done.
Yeah, well, working together, we definitely can get a lot of things done. And in case you just joined us, you can see this show on YouTube, on the website of the Charles River Conservancy, as well as shows about swimming, about running, about the skate park. There are well over 100 shows that are now up on YouTube about the Charles River Conservancy. And I want to thank you for all your help, and good luck with the arrival of your baby boy.
Thank you.
Very exciting. So we look forward to seeing you and Julie on the river. And we have now also information of how you can contact the Charles River Conservancy. And thank you for watching, and join us again on another show.